Stony Point is probably Victoria's weirdest train line, using V-Line rolling stock for its services despite being owned and operated by Metro, and having such low frequencies of every 1 to 2 hours. So in today's video, we have a look at the line's past, present and future, and what the service currently is like. The Stony Point line was initially opened to Baxter Station, with services commencing in 1888. Extensions to Hastings, Bitton and then Stony Point were completed in the following year. Branch lines were opened from Baxter to Mornington in 1889 and from Bitton to Red Hill in 1921. In 1959, a new station was opened at Leewara, originally called Rail Motor Stopping Place number 16, and Mulradu, originally called Rail Motor Stopping Place number 15, was opened a year later. In 1953, the Red Hill line was closed, and the Mornington line was closed in 1981. In that same year, on June 10th, passenger services on the Stony Point line were withdrawn. However, on September 26, 1984, passenger services on the Stony Point line were recommenced. Following the reopening of the Stony Point line passenger services, V-Line's DRC rail cars operated on the line, often with 2 MTH carriages in between them, making up a 4-carriage train. However, frequent breakdowns of the rail cars led to diesel locomotives often being called in to haul the concerts as an alternative. In August 1994, a T-class locomotive hauling 2 MTH carriages was used on the Stony Point line, but in November 1995, weekday services would then be operated by a P-class with 2 MTH carriages. On the weekends, a V-Line A-class would be used with 3 MTH carriages. On one occasion, however, one of V-Line's X-class freight locomotives was employed on the Stony Point line. The line didn't change much in the 2000s. Sometimes when V-Line had a locomotive shortage, locomotives would be leased from Freight Australia and later Pacific National, and appeared in their green and yellow livery. In 2008, the Stony Point train line went through a major re-signalling work, including the introduction of free position signalling. In April of that year, locomotive haul services to Stony Point were then replaced by V-Line's Sprinter rail cars. Malfunctions of level crossing gates forced the closure of the line for 3 months in 2015. In 2013, as part of the Network Development Plan for Metropolitan Rail in Melbourne, an extension of the Frankston line to Baxter was earmarked to begin in the long term. The extension would have included the removal of all railway crossings between Frankston and Baxter, duplication and electrification works, the construction of 1 or 2 new stations, and the reconstruction of stations along the corridor. However, in November 2023, it was found that the Baxter rail extension did not meet the investment priorities of the Albanese government, and it lost $225 million in federal funding. If you're a regular traveller on the Stony Point train line, you're already aware that the services on this line these days are pretty bad, with only 13 hours of operation each day from 5:30 AM to 10:30 PM, due to the Stony Point train line being entirely single track and having no passing loops. Trains come every 90 minutes or even 2 hours. Freight trains operate on the Stony Point line between South Dynon and Hastings twice daily, with Cube Holdings operating the Long Island Steel train. The stations on the Stony Point train line are Leewara, Baxter, Somerville, Tyabb, Hastings, which unfortunately was recently destroyed by fire, Bitton, Moradu, Courier Point, and Stony Point. The Stony Point line has had a lot of different operators ever since it opened. These operators were the Victorian Railways from 1889 to 1983, V-Line from 1983 to 1989, the Met from 1989 to 1998, Bayside Trains, which later became known as M-Train, from 1998 to 2004, Connex from 2004 to 2009, and Metro Trains Melbourne ever since 2009. Hey everyone, it is I, Melbourne Tracks, and I recently found out that I surpassed 300 subscribers here on the Melbourne Tracks YouTube channel. Now I just want to say thank you very much for that, and we're closing in on 320 subscribers. We weren't really bothered to talk much about it first, but we just want to say at the end of today's video, thank you very much.